This is Pixelated Audio, episode 137, featuring the 1500 DS Spirits Volume 10 Ego.
Welcome to Pixelated Audio, a podcast focusing on game audio, its history, and the people behind it.
We're your hosts. I'm Brian, and this is Gene.
Hey.
And today we're going to be playing music and talking about 1500 DS Spirits Volume 10 Ego for the Nintendo DS. And this is, we're going to do a short one today because we took a little bit of a break just because of all the craziness that was going on, and we just needed some mental time away from pretty much everything. But we are making an effort to get ourselves back into our routine, and I think we have a fun episode today to go through.
Yeah, we're back in fighting shape. We've got the notes for a couple of episodes lined up. We're really excited to be back. The track that brought us in was the title theme from, and you may have heard the name Ego. It's really just the letter I and then Go, because the game we're playing here is Go, the classic board game.
Yes. This is a cool track. So, I've been wanting to actually do it in like an expansion pack or something for the series, but really there's not a lot of really standout tracks in the series. But this one was really cool. I think that, we haven't really played like more classical, traditional Japanese style music on the show for an episode. And this was a great one to feature. I think it has a really good tone and really good expression, I think, that we get out of the DS. I mean, the DS has really good sound capability, but this was just a really solid, well-composed track. For
sure. My brow was furrowed. I was preparing myself mentally for the tough competition of playing those Go competitors, as I'm sure you were.
Yeah. So, again, we just, heard this soundtrack, and I just thought it would be a fun thing to kind of talk about and share. And this whole series was, I don't know if it was really popular, but the idea, if you're familiar with like the Simple series, this is a different kind of thing. But 1500, the name implies that is a kind of a budget gaming series where 1500 would be 1500 yen, about $15. And you could pick up, shogi or Go or darts or something, and play on the train with your fellow Go friends, I guess.
Well, I mean, we were talking about this earlier. You're sitting on the train, you lock eyes with somebody, lightning shoots forward, you whip out your DS, and it's time to play. That's
Kenka Banto style, and I mean, and right on the train.
It happens to me so often. Like I just get tired of it. I just keep my eyes down.
I know. I mean, especially in the year of COVID, it's just like a constant threat.
Yeah, it's like I'm not exposing myself for a game of Go. You're going to have to find somebody else.
So this series was started off by a company called Tasuke, and I thought, The name sounded familiar, but not, I hadn't really seen their logo. And of course, I had no idea about anything they've ever done. So in 2002, this company called Tasuke was formed. And it's a Japanese company that deals with information technology, cosmetics, herbal supplements, gambling games, budget video game titles. And they were most active as a game developer and publisher in the mid to late 2000s, making titles for the Nintendo DS and the DSiWare rather. And it's such a strange company. We were going through their website, which is still exists.
Yeah, it's kind of a grab bag, to put it nicely.
It's very strange. So this series specifically was released around 2007, 2008. And they still showcase this on their website as this is one of our babies, we check us out and all of our herbal medicine and cosmetic stuff, because that's what they're doing now. The cosmetic stuff is front and center, but right next to that is their DSi games from 15 years ago, 12 years ago.
It reminds me, some PC developers that made games in the shareware days, you can still buy Jazz Jackrabbit is not a good example, but it's you can still buy it full price. Who wants to buy a 20-year-old game for $9.99?
Right. Oh, and the thing is, the games are actually pretty well polished. They're simple, and so they're not. They're classic board games. They didn't reinvent anything, but they're pretty well polished. They make use of the touch screen, for the DSi and the DS and the stylus. So makes it nice, but again, they are you're playing chess, darts,
mahjong. You know what to expect.
Games,
yeah, exactly.
You know what to expect. Yeah. So they developed and published the 1500 DS Spirits series, which are primarily all just board games, card games, mahjong, reversi, chess, and so on. Shogi was the second game in the series, and it actually shares a very, very close soundtrack to this, and it was released in 2007. And then this game, Ego, or Go, is the 10th and final game in the series, and it was released in May of 2008.
Yeah, exactly. So, within a very short period of time, they were just kind of putting them out pretty much every month for about a year. There's not too much to say about them. Budget software titles, very similar to Sega Ages or D3's Simple series. So if you've gotten any of those ultimate card games or ultimate clubhouse games, it's that sort of thing. It's just very simple digital versions of the games you pretty much know and like.
Yep. So do you want to talk about the cosmetics a little bit? No, I'm just kidding.
Not really.
All right. So let's get into our next track. This is BGM 2 from Ego, and also similar to the one in Shogi for the Nintendo DS.
That was BGM 2 for Ego for the Nintendo DS, and as we mentioned, this was also in their other game, Shogi, but that version was a little bit different. It had more Japanese woodblocks and is slightly more annoying, actually. It's essentially the same track, but we thought they were exactly the same at first, but we went back, and then there's just
No, they are different, and I as much as I do love the Japanese woodblocks, it was a little obnoxious for this one. So, but yeah, no, this track is great. This is a lot of fun, a lot of energy, very traditional sounding, but like has the energy of like something that's very modern and I don't know, exciting. It was a good track.
Yeah, it was very playful. I mean, there's not too many tracks here, but overall, I can definitely see this being a good backdrop for, playing a good strategy game against your friend or a computer.
Right. That Koto player was just like rocking out and just in loving life for this track. It just sounded like so much fun, playfulness. And I think that, the rest of the soundtrack is very short, but there's a lot of heart there. And unfortunately, we didn't mention this earlier, but we weren't able to find a composer. There's no credits that we could manage to or care to get to in the games. But we did spend some time playing them and checking them out. But we just couldn't find a composer. It was probably done by a studio or something. There's not really anything on their website. So, you're just going to have to take it as another mystery of unknown composers.
Yeah, and the other thing is, even though the company developed and published it, since they're sort of this weird all-around anything-goes company, it's not really clear if they hired a game studio or have their own game studio or just published it under their company name. Could have been anybody. So for all we know, it's a game dev company for hire, or who knows. We have about as much information as you do, unless somebody wants to look it up for us. We looked as hard as we could.
Yeah, or no, we looked as hard as we were willing to.
True. Yeah, that's true. I mean, this episode isn't going to be a 2-hour-long deep dive into the strategy of Go. So
we got a few more tracks. Yeah. It is Go. I mean, that's essentially the thing. So if you're not familiar, it's a very intricate strategy game. It's actually one of the oldest dated games that's still played today. It was created in China over 2,500 years ago. So that just is pretty incredible that, it must have some lasting appeal if we're still playing it today. It's typically played on a block of wood that has a 19 by 19 grid. And it can be smaller or larger based on your skill. But I think that the standard regulatory size is 19 by 19. And players use black or white stones placed on the intersections of those grid lines. And, it's kind of like Reversi a little bit, where you can capture other people's or your opponent's spaces. But like there's a lot more there. And I think there's more or less comparison to something like chess, or maybe even like a chess meets Othello kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, what I've heard from a lot of people is that in terms of like the mechanics, it's more straightforward because the pieces work the same. It's all just placement, versus chess, where the pieces have individual roles. But in terms of complexity and in terms of the number of moves and strategy, that's where the similarities and comparisons start to come in.
Right. And apparently the game is very complicated. Actually, it's extremely complex, and it has like some very strict rules. It's apparently not too impossible. It's not too hard to learn, but it's very hard to master. And so from what it looks like, I'm not a Go player, but from what it looks like it's a lot more intricate than chess and takes a lot more of a mental toll when you play. So
I'm going to stick to checkers or Reversi for now. Those are much smaller.
Connect 4, man.
Exactly.
Connect
much smaller,
4.
Easier to manage grids.
Battleship. Yeah. Anyways, getting to our next track here. This plays when you're learning the rules of Go. And I'm sure there's a whole bunch. I tried to go through it, but I wasn't going to waste any more time.
You did a great job. I saw you made it through the first tutorial. I'm very proud of you.
The first tutorial on the first challenge too. So this is Rules. Let's take a listen and we'll be right back. All right, that was Rules from Ego, the 1500 DS Spirits, Volume 10 on the Nintendo DS. And this is actually also used in Reversi for 1500 DS Spirits Volume 4. Same track, I believe. Yeah. But quite a big departure from the traditional koto instrumentals to this smooth jazzy track.
I don't think there was a traditional Japanese golf music in the in the 1390s or whatever it was. It was actually a fun track. We were listening to it, and Brian's like, "Are you done listening?" And I was like, "No, I'm not. I'm not quite done yet. I want to keep listening for a little while."
It's really smooth. That bass is pretty solid. And, you know, I noticed too the same bass is actually in the other two tracks. If you listen, it's such a different style altogether. You almost don't hear it, but it is there.
Yeah, I didn't notice that actually until you just pointed it out, but I'll have to go back and listen because with all the note bends and everything, it does feel very different.
Yeah, it's a good track.
Definitely. Rules have never been this fun.
Yeah. So let's talk about the actual game, not Go, but this software. So tell us a little bit about it, Gene.
Yeah, it's a tight little package. I mean, it's pretty much what you'd expect. It's the game. It's some tutorial modes, so you learn how to play the game. There is a very nice 2-player local Wi-Fi, which was really popular for DS games for a specific window of time. You know, one person has the game, and if it's a small little title, you just sit close.
Download play.
It's great. Yeah.
That was I loved that. I thought it was so cool.
I didn't have any friends with a DS, so I always wanted to play download play with a couple of things, but never really happened. But there's there's mini challenges. There's the main game where you can play against an opponent. But I'd say the biggest thing about this is you get to pick your character portraits before you start. There's it's like Street Fighter 3. There's like these little circles and you pick your character. No super moves or anything. You just have cosmetic. But yeah, there's little character portraits that represent the main character and the other player. So sure, why not?
Well, this company's all about cosmetics, so. Exactly,
yeah. 3 of them are even their mascots. So you have these kind of like Phoenix Wrighty looking characters and then 3 like... I don't even know. They're like children's drawings, basically.
Right. Very Japanese mascot-y kind of looking things. There's like one that's like an upside down heart for a head, and it's like green, and it has like
one's like a little girl character with like
bunny ears. Or
exactly.
Something like that.
Very little detail on those drawings.
Right. And they even have like the names and stuff from like one is actually called Tasuke. So. And there's also some unlockable characters too.
Yeah, we didn't unlock them. We didn't spend the last 20 hours playing Go to tell you who they are.
I am very curious. Very curious who they are.
There was one of the nice things about picking those characters is there's some little character reacts. If you've got your opponent on the ropes, they'll wince, they'll grimace, and your character will grin and smile. And so we didn't play any major rounds, but I assume that when you win, you have some sort of like gleeful face, and the other person crying, just like letting all the tears out.
The art was great. The art was really cool. I mean, it was a nice touch on that. I mean, the game is, what you would expect from a 2,500-year-old game, but the extra bells and whistles that they put on was nice.
Yeah, nice little package in terms of just like presentation and all you'd really want, really. I mean, it's a $15 or was $15. I guess you can still buy it full price from the Tasuke website, which we will not be linking. But it's what else is there to say? It's Go.
And the formula was pretty much the same across all of their titles. You had the characters that you could pick based on the game, and having those extra expressions and stuff just give it this little extra flair, I think.
Exactly. Yeah. Nice little consistent package for a good budget.
Yep. So let's get into our next track here. There is a mission mode that you can play, and it has these little challenges, and the characters are in there and stuff too. I made it through the first mission. It was really easy, and then I think when you get to mission 5, it starts getting locked and stuff, and you have to. It gets really difficult. Anyways, this is from the mission mode, so let's take a listen, and we'll be right back.
That was the mission mode theme from Ego for the Nintendo DS.
Yeah, this is a cool track. You don't expect that coming in, right? Like that kind of eerie first track that we started off with, that really like kind of mysterious first 5 seconds. It's like the same thing happening here, but then all of a sudden, those hi-hats kick in and you're like, oh, this is going a different direction than I was expecting.
Love that surprise ending right before the loop. I was not expecting that at all.
that stab. Oh, that was good. That was good. Yeah, we're playing all these tracks with 2 loops just because, this isn't a very long episode anyway. So I think that, the soundtrack, while it's super short, it's concise, it's still fun, and it serves the right purpose for this being a budget game and a budget, I guess I wouldn't say budget soundtrack, but it's a limited soundtrack.
Sure. I mean,
for the series,
we've listened to a lot of music, and there's no real reason that they have to put too much effort. I've definitely played games like this with like one track. You open it up and there's like the title theme, and then there's like nothing else. So yeah,
exactly.
So we've got like 4 or 5 tracks. Why not? Right.
Yeah. And there's some little jingles in there like game over and stuff like that. At least they put some effort in there. So
yeah,
it was good. It's good. Anyways, a fun soundtrack, overall. Today we covered the 1500 DS Spirits Volume 10 on the DS, composed by someone at Tasuke, maybe, or somebody just anywhere in Japan, I guess.
As always, if you're listening to the show and you wrote the music for it, or who wrote the music for it, please write in. We'd love to know who it is. If you have somebody who works those cosmetics and happens to know the cousin of the friend, we'll be right here. And you can email us.
It's the guy who does like the face masks and like the peeling and the exfoliation creams.
You can check us out online at pixelatedaudio.com for the show notes and the track list. And we can also be found on Twitter at pixelatedaudio.
Right. And if you like the show, you can leave some feedback on iTunes. That's appreciated. And also our Discord. That's a place where it's a huge community that, has created kind of just organically, and it's a lot of fun to be able to chat with everybody there. Everybody very, very, just happy to talk about game audio, video games in general, and all sorts of other stuff, just music even,
Definitely.
So it's a great place. The link's on the website, so definitely join in if you're on Discord and chat with us. It'll be a good time.
Yeah, super casual. We're talking about all sorts of stuff, game music and otherwise. We got bunch of channels off topic, a lot of jazz, a lot of soul music in there. So
oh man, we need to make a whole channel for Harold Hardtooth.
Yeah, and that actually brings us to our plugs for our past episodes. One of the things we've been trying to do a little bit more, pardon the little break we had recently, is we've been trying to do some of these short episodes, not only just because it makes it easier to keep a schedule, but also it's fun to do these little short soundtracks without having the burden of like working on them for months at a time or weeks at a time to try to get this like 2-hour show out. So our last episode, very recently, Wonderborg 136, where we talked about Programmable Robot, which had software with some really cool music. We did everybody's favorite 125, Colgate, or Harold Hardtooth and the Fight for Clean Teeth.
Yep.
And actually one of our earliest short episodes was Rackets and Rivals, episode 113. A lot of great music in all 3 of those shows.
We decided that getting ourselves back on track this year, amidst like all the crazy stuff that's going on in the world, too much to even talk about. Like we're all here, we're all present, we all know what's going on, and there's just so much going on in the world right now. So for us, we need a breather for several weeks, and we decided the rest of the year, let's just have fun and get a bunch of these short shows out. Something that we have been planning on doing for a while, and we're like, you know what, let's just do it. So hopefully you guys like it, and we didn't gloss over too much, but I don't think there's enough to really talk about anyway when it comes to Go.
Well, actually, you can listen in my other podcast where we do deep strategies on Go. It's about 3 hours every 2 days. No, I'm just kidding. Actually, it probably would take that long to get good at it, but I am not the person to listen to on those strategies. I'm sure you could find a YouTube tutorial on that. And with that,
we have one track. We have one track left taking out the show. This is Puzzle, and I'm not exactly sure like which puzzle this is, but it's a puzzle sometime in the game. So apparently there is a mode that I haven't found yet called a puzzle. It's a really great track. Thank you guys so much for listening, and we'll see you back very soon for our next episode.